Good afternoon and welcome to Lab 2, which is an introduction to ArcMap. Hopefully most of you have completed the online tutorial, so you have already been introduced to ArcMap. This lab is just going to go a little more in depth into the ArcMap interface, how to use it, how to find and load data, how to do things with the data, and then how to make a map. So if you go to Blackboard, there will be a link to this HTML file. Just real quick, you can see as you scroll through that it moves you through the table of contents on the left. You can click anywhere in here to see where you're going and move back to any of the sections. Also, any of the text in red boldface, if you hover your cursor over it, the definition will show. First thing that you need to do, if you haven't already, is create a directory structure. So really what that means is folder where you're going to save everything that we do in this lab. So I want you to create a Geography 358 lab folder, and within that folder, for every lab, we're going to create a subdirectory, which is just a folder within a folder. For each lab, that will be your workspace, which means it's the place where you will save all of your data, and it's the space where you will do all of your work for that lab. So for me, I save everything in Google Drive. I have my KU folder, my teaching folder, this class, and then I have this Geography 358 lab. So you want to create that folder if you haven't already. And then within that folder, create another folder called Lab2. And that is where we will download our data. So we are going to acquire data from the state of Pennsylvania, their geospatial access portal. This is pretty common online format for accessing data. A lot of local, state, and national government agencies have websites like this where you can search for and then download geospatial data. So you want to do a Google search for this PASDA site. This should be the first one that comes up. It looks like this. And then these instructions guide you through downloading 3 data files. So when you download them, they will be zip files. Zip files are just compressed folders that have one or more different files in them. They are portable, which means they're easy to download, they're easy to send to other people, and they've also been compressed, so they take up less space on your hard drive than the uncompressed files do, which means that it's also faster to download. But it does mean that you need to unzip those files before you're able to use them. On a Mac, you just double-click the zip file and it extracts automatically. On a Windows machine, you need to right-click, and then there should be an option to extract all of the files that are in that folder. So you want to download all of those folders, and then you want to open ArcMap. So I am doing everything on the virtual lab because I have a Mac. So I come to the virtual lab website, sign in, come to desktops, and then Linley 310. And then sign in again. And so you can just type ArcMap in the search bar to bring up the program. So once ArcMap is open, you can just either hit OK or cancel or this X right here. All of those will create a blank document for you. Oh, and I'll show you in a Windows machine, you come into File Explorer. I have made a quick access bookmark for my Lab2 folder. So you just right click on a folder and then pin to quick access so you can find it. So I'm going to unzip this neighborhoods file. You can see it's got the little zipper icon on it here. You just can either come here to extract or right click, extract all. So anyways, that should work for you. I think it doesn't work for me because it's a Mac to PC thing, so I will unzip it on my own computer. Just double click there, and you can see it's created that folder here. So now I should be able to see it here. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is add your data. You can do that here, this plus add data button. So we are going to need to add a folder connection. So that ArcMap knows where to find our data. So just click this, connect to folder, and then you will navigate to your Lab2 workspace. So for those of us on the virtual lab, it takes a little bit longer. So this PC, local disk, users, yourself, and then wherever on your computer you've saved your Lab2 workspace. So it's connect to folder, right? Not connect to file. So you want to connect to the folder where you have everything stored, which is your workspace, so your Lab2 folder. Okay, and so you should be able to see all of your data here. And so you want to just say add. Another way that you can add data that's maybe a little bit faster is by using this Arc Catalog window. So if you don't have this pinned to the side of your ArcMap window here, you can open it here with this icon. And then now under folder connections, you should be able to see all of your data. And then you can just drag and drop in like that. And so the name of this folder is kind of long. You can't see the whole thing. You can rename it. So just click inside of that text box, type Lab2 or something like that, and makes this just a lot easier to use. All right, so here's our data. Yours might be different colors, but you can see we have the schools, the networks, and the neighborhoods. So this is the table of contents right here. This lists everything that you have in your map document. The check indicates that it's displayed. You can turn layers on and off. There are different ways that you can list the layers. So right now this is listed by drawing order. So the layers that are drawn on top are on the top of this list. Those on bottom or on the bottom. You can change the order. So you can see if you drag and drop neighborhoods to the top, it covers everything because it's a polygon instead of a point. So we'll move that back down. This is list by source. So you can see the path, that folder, that long folder path to where the data is. So if you're ever not quite sure where your data is located, this is an easy way to find it. So this is an MXD file. which is the native format for ArcMap. It's a map document. The MXD file stores all of this symbology, anything that you do to create a map in this document, but it does not actually store the data itself. It stores the path to the data, so it points to the data, it knows where to look for it, but it does not store the data itself. And so that's important to remember, and also why I will not accept an MXD file as a submission for your labs, because if you send me an MXD file and you do not send me the data, I will not be able to open your map. So a best practice is always to send the MXD file and the data all in one folder when you're sending somebody a map for them to do things with. Because if you don't, it can break. So let's go ahead and save this. You want to save it in your Lab2 workspace, so you may have to navigate to it again. And so you want it your last name and then Lab2. I'm just going to save over the one I've already made. Yes. So now we're going to see what it looks like when those data links are broken. So we're going to take one of these in your Lab2 workspace, take one of these folders where your data is, and move it out. Of your Lab2 workspace, and then delete it in your Lab2 workspace. So I just dragged and dropped mine onto the desktop. It's an easy thing to do because we're going to move it back into the folder when we're done. So I will delete that from here. And now open your Lab2 map document again. So now when you open your map document, you'll see that these neighborhoods no longer display, and there's a red exclamation mark here. That means that ArcMap knows that that file exists, but it no longer knows where to find the data because the path that we stored for it is no longer valid. See, it doesn't even display it here anymore. So we need to tell it where it is. So to repair this broken data link, you can just click on the red exclamation mark, and then it will pop open the Set Data Source window. So I have mine saved on the desktop. So you probably won't have this here. You'll need to create a new folder connection. So this is here, desktop. And then you open it and navigate to where the neighborhood shapefile is and hit OK. And so if we had dragged all three of them out like it asked you to do in the lab, by repairing one of those links, it would repair all of them because all of the data is in the same place. So go ahead and exit out of this, but don't save. And then move your neighborhoods back into your Lab2 workspace. And open your lab again. So the primary data format that we will be using in ArcMap is a shapefile. So even though it's called a singular file, a shapefile is actually a collection of anywhere from like 3 to 7 or 8 separate files that all need to be together in order to be able to access the data. And so those file types are gone over in the lab, but the main important thing to remember is that they all need to be together. If one of those files is removed, then it may not work at all. And so the best thing to do is to move them all as a unit using ArcCatalog, because ArcGIS, ArcMap, ArcCatalog, they all will read a shapefile as one file instead of the different types the way you see it in File Explorer. So see here, this is a collection of a lot of different files. If we deleted one of them, it might not work. But when you view them using ArcCatalog, they show us just single files. And so it's much easier to move, delete, copy shapefiles within ArcCatalog. So one thing that you can do to help with the data links issue is to make sure that when you create a map document, if you come here under File, Map Document Properties, you set this store relative path names to data sources. It's a good habit to be into, and what that means, and it goes over it in this lab document, essentially instead of giving it an absolute address, I live at 123 41st Street. Like if I didn't have a map of my city, I might not know where that was. So a relative path instead is like, well, it's 2 blocks south of the blue stop sign, right? So it makes it more likely that if you sent your map document and all of your data within a folder to somebody else, that ArcMap would know how to open and use that data. All right, so one thing that's very easy to do is to change what is called the symbology of your data. So those are the way these things are symbolized. So the colors, the lines. There are a couple different ways to do it, but the easiest is to just click on the icon itself, and it pops up this symbol selector. And so you can change the fill color, you can change the outline color, you can change the outline width, and you're not just limited to the colors here. You can also say more colors, and it comes up with these RGB sliders, so it's very customizable. So of course, it's good to use colors and lines and symbols that make your map more readable. I would venture to say this is not very readable. And so you can do that for the lines and the points as well. You have different shapes here. So this is your tools toolbar right here. These are some of the primary tools for navigating around your map document. So here is zoom in, zoom out, and pan. So it's obvious what they do. You can click. You can also draw a rectangle to zoom in to a specific area. Panning moves side to side. You can also go back to your previous extent. The extent is what is seen in this map window. And you can also zoom to the full extent. You can identify features with this. So this little eye is for identify. You can click on your map and it will pull up the attribute information. So here, this is the Somerton neighborhood. Shows you where it is. You can also change this here. So I clicked on that point. So it's telling me information about this school, but if I wanted the neighborhood instead, I could change that here. And so now it gives me information about the neighborhood. You can measure with the measure tool. You can choose your units. So let's say we want miles. And then you can also change the way you're doing it. So we're going to have a line. And so it's going to snap to the features. Or maybe we have that turned off. And so you just double click. So it tells you how long that segment is. You can also measure an area. And so it gives you the area as well as your perimeter measurements as well. So selecting and subsetting is a lot of what we are going to be doing. And there are different ways that you can do that. So one is by using the attribute table for your data. So you just right click on your layer, open attribute table. You can also drag these different windows. See if you hold and click, it pops up these places where you can snap it. I usually like to have my attribute table snap to the bottom like this because you'll use it a lot. So this is all the information contained in that shapefile about the schools. So we have the type of school, the grades, the enrollment, the address, the zip code, etc. You can see here the total number of schools is 550, and we have 0 selected. So one way that you can select features is just by clicking here on the left. So you can see on your map also where the school is that you selected. You can also double click and it will zoom you to that selected feature. So now you can see down here we have 1 out of 550 selected. If you click here, it will show you only the selected features. Another way that you can select features, and something that's arguably more helpful, is by constructing an attribute query. So come here to Table Options. And then select by attributes. And this box will pop up where you can construct a SQL query. So let's say we want enrollment. So you double click here. Notice it's in double quotes. And then is greater than 1,000. Apply. And ArcMap will apply this query to your table and only select the features that match this. So only those with enrollment over 1,000 students. And there we go. So 41 out of 550. We can, again, zoom to selected. And now you can see all of the schools that have enrollments of more than 1,000. So you can clear your selected features here. You can also select interactively on the map using this select features. So there are different geometries that you can use. So you can just draw an area and it will select everything within that area. So you can see It's selected from all of the layers because we have all of them turned on. Over here in the table of contents, you can make your layers selectable or not by toggling these buttons. So let's clear it again. You can also select features by location, so spatial selection. So we're still in the schools here. Let's come and up here, sorry, selection, select by location. So we want to select features from, let's say, schools. So we want to select schools. The source layer is what you're referencing it to. So say we want schools that are within a certain distance of the bike network. So we will change this method here to are within a distance of the source layer. So you have schools that are within a distance of the bike network. And so let's say 1 mile. And just hit apply, and it will find all of the schools that are within 1 mile of the bike network. All right, so there are other things that you can do with selected features too. So in the lab, it has you select only the charter schools, I believe. So we'll hit get unique values here. So charter and okay. This will select only the charter schools. This is Theo. All right, so there are our charter schools. Close this window. You open the attribute table. You can look at statistics for those selected features. That's right. So it'll be for a specific field. So you can right click on enrollment, statistics. And so you can see the count is 94 because it's only based on the ones that we have selected. And then it's got the statistics here. So the minimum enrollment is 94, the maximum is 2,200, the sum, and then it's got the histogram here. And you could do this for all of the schools if you didn't have any selected. You can change the field here. It'll only do this for the numeric fields. You can also use your selection in another operation. All right, so now we will, with these selected, we'll go back into select by attributes. And now here for the method, instead of creating a new selection, there are there's add to current selection, remove from, or select from current selection. So we're going to use the select from current selection. So of these 94 schools that we already have selected, which are the charter schools. We want to select those with enrollments greater than 1,000. So again, just double click and then greater than 1,000. And so this will select from the schools that we already have selected those with enrollments greater than 1,000. And so now we have 15 schools selected. So these are charter schools with enrollments greater than 1,000. So you can also take this selection and save it as a separate file, which often can be easier than making the selection over and over again. So if you right click here and then data, export data. So we want the selected features. You could also have one of these other methods, but the selected features, keep this as it is. We want this source data layer and then change this to your Lab2 workspace. And then you want to give it a name. And here you need to change this to shapefile. So my charter shapefile. Save and OK. And it will export only those selected schools to a new shapefile. And so you can either say yes or no. Do you want that added to the map? We'll say yes. So now you can see that this shapefile only has the 15 schools that we selected. And so the rest of the lab guides you through making your first map. So you usually do this in the layout view. So we've been working in data view here. You switch to the layout view. Now you can see your map on a page, and it gives you this new layout toolbar. So now you have these zoom and pan and full extent tools that are different from these. These tools move the geographic data, whereas these tools move your page. And so this is essentially you designing the map document, right? So this is where you would change your map to work for print or something like that. So usually you want the map to take up as much space as it can on the page without going over. So here, this is our largest layer. We can zoom to layer, and it will make it bigger in this extent. And then you're also going to add some of the customary or standard map elements. So you do that here using insert, title, legend, north arrow, scale bar, etc. So there are always different types. So we'll just say OK. And so you can see it gave you a scale bar. So you can see how wide this is. It's usually helpful to change some of the properties in the scale bar to make it more readable. So 16,000 feet doesn't really tell us a whole lot. Maybe miles would be more interpretable. So you can double click on it and it will bring you into properties. And so personally, what I like to do is make these small. So 2 divisions, 1 subdivision with none before 0. And then here you can change the units. So let's change them to miles. Okay. And so now you can see it has the 2 main divisions. So we've got a total of 5 miles. The first division is at 2.5, and then we have the 1 subdivision at 1.25. You can add a scale or a north arrow. Some of them are pretty goofy looking. Use whichever one you like, you know. But it should be fairly unobtrusive. Remember that this is what tells our story, right? These elements help make our map more interpretable, but they don't really help tell the story. And so you want the story to be the main focus of your map. So title is kind of a weird, specific design element in ArcMap. I think it's almost always easier to insert text instead of a title. You can see it popped it up here. So we're going to use this as a title. So you want to make it something informative. So we would say these are Philadelphia charter schools with enrollments greater than 1,000 students. And so now if you double click on this, we can make the text bigger with this change symbol. We can add some line breaks. So maybe we would put that there. Actually, maybe let's put it on top. Move this down. There we go. And we'll want to add a legend too. So this will tell you all of the layers that are going to be included in your legend. So this is correct. We don't want all the schools. We just want my charter schools. And so this is how I'll know which ones of you guys watch this video or not, because this is a pet peeve of mine. I don't think that you ever need your legend to be titled legend. We know it's a legend. We don't title the scale bar scale bar. We don't title the north arrow north arrow. Let's not call the legend legend. So delete this, and then you can just accept all of the other defaults. So here's our legends, and it shows the symbology here so that people can navigate our map, understand what we're doing. You also want to change the titles of your layers here, because that's how they're going to show up in your legend. So generally speaking, you want them to look nice. You don't want these underscores. So maybe we could just call this charter schools. We could call this the bike network. And then neighborhoods. And so you can see those changed here. That makes it look a lot nicer. And then you just want to play with the format. Figure out what you think looks nice, what works for you. You want it to be readable, legible. You want it to make sense, even if this is embedded as part of a report or a research document. You want you want your map to contain enough information so that if this page fell out and somebody found it on the street, that they would be able to know exactly what your map was saying, which in this case is showing the charter schools with enrollments greater than 1,000 students. So when you're done making your map, and I'm not saying this is what it should look like, I don't even think this is the map that you're making, this is just an example, you'll save your map document, and then you're going to export it to an image file. Because remember, I will not accept the MXD document. So if you come here to File, and then Export Map, you can save it as any number of image files here. So PDF, I think maybe the lab has you save it as a PNG file. There we go. So we want to make sure, and again, save it in your Lab2 workspace so that you know where it is, you know where to find it when you go to submit it. And it will export your map as an image file. So now, there we go. So you can just open that outside of ArcMap. If it was an MXD file, you would only be able to open it in ArcMap. So you're going to work through the lab, you're going to make your map, you are going to export it as an image file, and that is what you will submit on Blackboard. And so good luck. I hope you're excited about making your first map.